Hello! Welcome to the Dad Report, a podcast for dads, by dads, about dad stuff.
Join us as we sit down and have meaningful conversations with friends, family, and coworkers.
We will talk about life, family, and so much more while working towards a goal of creating a healthy idea of what it means to be a dad.
You know, I wore my first Vans shirt yesterday, and it was nice.
Welcome to the cult, I guess. I don't know.
No, I love their
comfy.
shoes. I've worn their shoes for a long time, but
Yeah, they're great. The thing about the Vans is you can be business casual all the way down to like street bum in their pair of shoes.
for sure. Yeah,
great.
I have a pair that's like black. They're like black leather, and then I've got another pair that's like back in the day when everybody, and I know some still make it, but it's like when they started making like, hey, it feels like a flip flop, but it's really like a canvas shoe.
The
I have a
slip-ons,
pair.
maybe?
Yeah. Well, they're lace, but yeah, but it's like,
Oh, I have no idea.
like if you go to like, especially down here,
They're more of a
you go to
beach shoe.
you go to like a surf shop and
Okay.
you'll see them there. These were kind of like the first iteration of it, and I've had them for like, crap, probably like almost 10 years. And
Yeah.
they look like I had them for 10 years.
That's
They're
not
all faded
Yep.
and worn down, but
Yep.
they're, the most comfortable thing I've got. So
Yeah, my old schools, one of them is ripped in the heel, like probably an inch. So it literally is it's ripped. Both of the shoes of my old school pair have ripping in the side wall, not the actual wall, but the canvas piece connecting the rubber to the shoe. The tread's wearing off. Apparently the white skid, whatever that piece of rubber is that
yeah,
has kind of the
yeah.
grainy grit, that's wearing off. Like I love those shoes. I've worn them for a hot minute. I remember first getting them and not even liking them that much because they were kind of uncomfortable. And now that they're like broken in, I'm like, well, I kind of want to get them a pair, but instead of green, with Vans, I've learned don't buy the colors. They look cool, they stain too easy, get dirty too quickly, and if you buy the wrong color, like, so I have a pair of Authentics that I hardly ever wear. They're like a light green or a neutral kind of green color, but because I spilled some stuff on them and it doesn't like wash out, it's got some weird brown stains now, and I have almost put them through the washing machine. I've thought about it. I don't know how it would work or if it would just stain them worse. But because of that, I don't wear them. Like, I think next time I'm gonna buy some black old schools, and I'm gonna buy some just like black Authentics. Life is short. No, you're blocking it with your Jesus hoodie.
Oh.
Move out of the way. Buy the sneakers. Okay, right on.
Oh man, so you're never gonna guess what we were talking about while you were joining.
Dad jokes.
No.
But you gave me
Actually,
a little extra time to try to think of some. That's not my forte, but
it's all good, man. We'll give you a couple here, but we're talking about sneakers.
yes. What about?
Well, I mean, I'm just learning that Justin is he likes the sneaker game a little bit.
Not as much as you do, Kevin. I may have been stalking your Instagram, and you got a lot of sick pairs of J's, dude.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. It's a hobby of mine, but yeah, it just helps you connect with people. It's like I see someone out, wherever I am. If I see someone in a cool pair of sneakers, it's like I feel like we're just instantly friends. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
what do you like to collect? Or do you collect any, or?
I mostly have Vans. I have probably 11
Okay.
pairs of Vans, in all kinds of conditions and shapes, and some need to go. I want some new ones. So
I get it. Yeah, they got some sweet colors in Vans, man. They got some really sweet colorways going on.
They do. They do. It's funny. I was just telling Chad that I'm probably gonna just stick with buying black because I've bought some in color and they're staining and I don't know how to clean. I mean, let's be real. My version of cleaning them would be like throwing them through the washing machine with some clothes. And so they're staining. I have some green pair that's stained in a funny way that look like they got brown smears, and so I've stopped wearing them because of
Gotcha.
that. So probably just gonna buy traditional black and roll with that.
Hey, it goes with everything, right?
That's true.
So
Now,
That is true.
Justin, I don't know if you've ever been to a Vans outlet. They have the craziest assortment of Vans, like
That's where
nothing
I
you'll
got
ever
my
find in like a
that's where I got
regular retail store.
my mustard ultra ranges were bought at
Yep,
the St.
yep,
Augustine outlet. And now I've
that
ripped through
sounds
them.
about right.
nice. You can find some steals on Vans too.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
I feel like they used to be a lot better priced. So, yeah, I'll jump at the deals. Like, yeah, I used to be able to go down to the outlet. Shoot, this is probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago and be able to get a decent pair of Vans for like $25 or something like that. And that's kind of a steal, but now, man, they're up there. Old me could not have afforded Vans at the current prices.
No. Journeys will run decent deals on Vans from time to time. They'll run for like 30, 25, 30, just
Okay.
depending on what's going on. And if you sign up for the birthday discount, get like an extra 5 to 10 off percent.
There you go.
So that was how my addiction started.
Was the birthday discount?
Yep. At Journeys.
Nice.
I was like, $30. That's only a couple McDonald's meals that I can skip,
That's how they get you.
That's right. That's right.
That's how they get you.
And look at you now, 11 pairs later.
Yeah, don't tell my wife's not a fan of that. Thankfully, most of those were collected prior to getting married.
So do you have more shoes than your wife does?
Are
Justin,
you
I'll
asking
start
me
with
that
you.
or Justin?
Actually, I'll start with Justin, but yeah,
He's
I want to hear
asking
your
both of
answer
us.
too. So Justin, I know that your number of shoes is a little more modest. So I'm wondering, like, my wife comments all the time, you have more shoes than I do, but I really don't have a lot.
I mean, in pairs that I wear, yes, I have more. What she will not tell you is the bin that has traveled with us in our marriage, chock full of all her childhood, high school, and college shoes that she has just
Really?
slightly outgrown and will not like. She's talked about it several times. Why don't you take us to Goodwill? I went snooping through our closet a couple days ago looking for something in our midst of several times packing over and over and found the bin of shoes again. So she's got at least 20 to 30 pair in there. I probably own 20 to 25 pairs tops. But yeah, I wear more shoes than she does. Like I try to rotate shoes sometimes throughout the week as well.
So she's got shoes that's not necessarily like for her wardrobe, just
right
nostalgia she hangs on to. That's kind of cool though.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. As a sneaker guy, I can appreciate that.
I mean, none of them are really worth. I don't think any of them like they're like flats and some sandals and a couple pair of Chucks. Other than that,
yeah.
But
so Kevin, what about you, man? Do you outclass your wife in the shoe game?
Yeah. and she would tell you that. I think all in, I'm constantly like buying, selling, or giving some away. So all in, I'm somewhere in the 50 range.
okay.
But I don't know the exact number. My wife's probably not too far behind. If you add in like all the boots, the flip flops, the sneakers, all that kind of stuff, as far as just sneakers go, so I got like a pair of black dress shoes and brown dress shoes, and then the rest are sneakers. Like she's got a big variety of, she's got all the different kind of boots and stuff like that too. But all in, I'm probably a little bit above her. I don't think she's that far behind me though.
Okay. Did y'all meet through collecting shoes?
No. We met in college. So I was a senior, she was a freshman. And it was, I had noticed her the year before. Her sister was dating someone that lived on my floor my junior year. Okay. And so I had noticed her at this school dance. And then I asked my friend about her, and he's like, "Oh yeah, she's in high school still." I was like, "No,
Skirt. Yep.
we'll pass on that." And then the next year I kept seeing her around campus. She came there as a freshman, and I was a senior. And then I saw her around a lot. And then it was like 3 weeks before I graduated, and it's a Thursday night, and I'm sitting in my dorm. I'm doing my devotions, and I couldn't get her out of my head. I just kept thinking about her, and I was like, no, I'm trying to focus on God, not think about a girl, all that stuff. And finally, I was like, it was in my heart. I was like, all right, God, like, I'm graduating in 3 weeks, and then I don't know where I'm going. Like, if you want me to ask her out, have her come say hi to me this weekend. Kind of like a put a fleece out
Getting it.
in the
Yeah.
grass
Yeah.
and see.
Okay.
The next day, she came up and she's like, "Hey, you're KG, right?" I was like,
Dang.
"Yeah, you want to go get dinner?" So
What's your
that's what I
snap?
tell people. I tell people I literally prayed for her. So it was just kind of I didn't actually expect that to happen. And she'll tell you she's so introverted, like going up and saying hi to somebody is so far out of her comfort zone too. Um, so we really feel like God kind of set the whole thing up.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
Well, Kevin, welcome to the Dad Report. We're super stoked to have you here. And because of that, well, how about you go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody listening?
Sure. My name's Kevin. Friends call me KG. Um, and I am a dad of two littles. I got two under 3. So if you're a dad, you probably understand, what I'm going through on a daily basis. I am actually a full-time stay-at-home dad. And so that happened about 2 years ago when my first son was 6 months old. Prior to that, I was a full-time kids and youth pastor for about 8 years at 2 different churches out in Philly, the Philadelphia area. And then, yeah, we decided we wanted someone to stay home full-time with the kids. And I worked twice as much and made half the money. And so it became clear that she should be the one to stay home or work and I stay home. And so we moved to Indiana to get a little closer to family. And for the last 2 years, I've been taking care of the kids, man. And so
That's
we got a
awesome.
2.5-year-old and one that's about to be 8 months old here in about a week. So,
Oh my goodness.
Living the dream. I feel like every dad I've talked to whose wife was is or was at some point stay at home, like every dad's like, I could do that, and I could do that a whole lot better. And so here you are, man, living the dream.
it was easier working. It was
Okay.
easier working. And I was in
Yeah.
full-time ministry and that was easier.
Oh,
I
wow.
will say I don't miss meetings and my life has a lot less drama. The drama is because I picked the blue bowl instead of the green bowl to give to them. Instead of all the other drama that can go with full-time ministry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was easier. That was easier than this. So
All right.
All right.
He is living the dream though. Like I would, well, I
it
don't
is
know.
though.
I love ministry, but I also love my kid. So
You know,
It
I've
I
got,
is
would
it is an amazing experience getting to be there just all the time for them.
yeah.
It's really a unique thing that I didn't plan on. I never dreamed that I would be doing this. It wasn't in the cards for me at all. Like I enjoy working, I
Mhm.
enjoy creating and doing and contributing. Um, this was something that kind of took us completely by surprise, but yeah, it really is living a dream in a lot of instances.
That's cool. Chad, you were
that's
gonna
great.
jump in and say something.
I probably was, Justin. But I don't think it was that important, so I totally forgot about it. Classic.
Classic.
It's my first day. What can I
It's
say?
Are you kidding me? I think you've officially been on the show for over a year now as a co-host. I think it was this time last year. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It was a good night though. Well, Kevin, dude, welcome to the Dad Report. So we talk all things dad, typically from a more God-fearing perspective. But we are open to all walks. We've had all kinds of people on here, including people who weren't dads, but because everybody's connected and attached to a dad, that's how we roll. We are both fathers here. I've got one under 3. She is actually almost 18 months and still hasn't figured out the walking thing yet. She'll do it with assistance, but otherwise she's a snot. Love her to death. And then Chad here has 2 over 3. I can let him fill you in
Yes,
on those
well
ages.
over 3. Yeah,
Well
mine
over
are
3.
I mean, you look here, you can kind of see. Mine
Wisdom
are
patches.
11. Yeah, mine are 11 and 17. So I got started as a dad fairly young. I was 25, which I don't know, maybe that's not young. I don't know. What
I'm
are
26, so we had
I
Amelia
feel
when
like
I
that's
was
about average.
25.
okay.
About average.
But was it average for when Chad started having kids, though?
Ooh.
That's the
Well, where I go to initially is I do remember that I was the first of my friends to get married. And so like my buddies would come over and they'd be like, and Sean would be like, "Hey, do you want to stay for dinner?" And they're like, "Yeah." And she'd be making whatever and they'd be like, "Chad, this is cool. Shauna's cool." I'm like, "She's your
that's
friend
cool.
too." Like we just because we put a ring on, now like you think, we're not fun to hang out with or something. But yeah, so I do remember that. And we waited I think it was almost exactly 4 years before we had any kids. And so I would have been much younger. I'm glad we waited though. I can only imagine the mistakes I would have made as a 21-year-old dad or whatever. So yeah, glad we waited, got to know each other a little bit. And so yeah, so Pierce came around yeah, after about 4 years. So that's my story. And yeah, so he just graduated. Kevin, just to get you up. So he just graduated high school, and then my younger one
Nice.
is in middle school. So there we
Ooh, so
are.
still a few years ago till they're gone.
Yeah, and this is uh an interesting age for my older one, like, um just because he's out of school, he hasn't quite started college or anything yet. So he's working and just, figuring stuff out. And so it's a very interesting time, I will say. Good. It's like, what I told Justin is I feel like the older they get, the highs are so much higher and the lows are so much lower.
Mm.
But
The
it's
drama.
it's great, kind of, and we're having a transition too, because kind of becoming more of like a almost like a coach, right? So there are certain things where
Mm.
he's still living with us, and so he's still following the rules and doing that whole thing. But I would say when I can, I really try to be more of a coach and trying to get him to make decisions and really training him to be out on his own. So and that's much easier said than done. It's a difficult. It's really it's not so hard to walk out. I mean, I've read a bunch of books. I have all the skills, all that, but just, no, I don't know, man. It's a, it's a mind game. It's crazy. Just, and everybody says, oh, they grow up so fast and you're going to wish they were young. And I'm like, whatever, not me. Here I am. So they were
I mean, I
right.
remember being 17 when I knew everything. And so,
Yeah.
now I'm a little older and I don't know a whole lot.
Funny.
I
Yeah.
know a
Funny
lot
how
less
that
than I
works.
did back then.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Same here.
So Kevin, tell us a little bit about your journey from 17 know-it-all to
Yeah.
now
Oh,
a dad with 2 kids under 3, married for a hot minute, was formerly a kids and youth pastor. You've got my heart, bro. I'm currently a student pastor, so I feel you.
awesome. Awesome.
So share that journey, man.
Man, I do not want to go back to those teenage years.
That's
So
okay.
we'll
You don't have
skip.
to.
We can skip past those ones. But no, my dad was a children's pastor, and so I think part of me pursuing a career in that was probably influenced by him, obviously, but also just part of it was I was good with kids. I was doing small group. I was leading a small group of like second graders for
Hmm.
years all throughout high school and stuff. And it's just I love that component. Is the only place I've really ever served in a church is in children and youth ministry. And so it just became a natural thing to kind of pursue working in that field. And then, got my degree in children's ministry, and then uh, got a job. I accepted the first job offer that I got right out of college, because that's what you do when you're 21 years old.
That's right.
And, was called you know, Chad was married at 21. They started calling me a pastor at 21. And that was just weird. That was
Yeah.
so weird to me.
Wow.
Because I still felt like I had no clue. It's like I showed up to the office the first day and I was like, so what do I do?
Right.
It's like I feel clueless, like when the kids
Yeah.
are here, I'm fine. It's like I can interact with them, teach them, do all the things with them, but I'm like, I don't know what to do like Monday to Thursday in here. But we figured it out. Life's just a series of figuring things out. And so we figured that out, and I had a really good run at my first church for 6 years, and just loved it. Saw a lot of kids come to Christ. And it's weird now because it's like, man, one of my former youth group students is married and having a baby soon,
Oh
and
man.
so like I
Mm.
feel that makes me feel old, I'm 32, but it makes me feel, it's like my
Yeah.
former youth group kids are starting families of their own now. um and all the little kids that I met as 3-year-olds, it's like one was a ring bearer in my wedding, and I just saw him like 2 weeks ago, and he's taller than me now. I'm like, man, this is making me feel like I'm up there. But yeah, I eventually transitioned to a second church, a church plant in the area. And so just the desire, the call to feel a part of something new and getting a new church up off the ground. And I went in as the youth and kids pastor. So did both of those things. And so got a lot of experience and learned a lot of lessons in trying to build something from nothing,
Hmm.
essentially.
Hmm.
Um, and then our first son was born February 28th, 2020.
Ooh.
Um, and so
Okay.
2 weeks later, luckily, like we're in the hospital and weren't dealing with all the COVID things yet. But baby was born. We had visitors in the hospital, all that. And then, yeah, 2 weeks later, went to full working from home. And so my wife's on maternity leave upstairs. I'm in the basement in the office downstairs, spending 30, 40 hours a week doing this on Zoom. And, meanwhile, I'm hearing my wife trying to, you know, calm a crying baby upstairs. And so
Yeah.
that was a gut wrenching thing while my wife was on maternity and I'm locked in my office downstairs spending all these hours on Zoom. Um, and we eventually got to this point. My wife went back to work, and we had a nanny lined up to kind of help with the baby, and it just kind of became one of those things of like, we're in a financial spot like where we can afford to have a parent staying home with our kids. And we're out on a walk one day, and my wife's like, man, I really wish I could stay home with Jace, and not go back to work. And I like was joking, and I said, well, we couldn't afford for you to do that, but we could afford for me to do that. And I said it completely joking, and then we both kind of looked at each other and we're like, wait, like we could do that. um and then my job was the thing holding us down in the Philly area, and so with me leaving my job, we transitioned. We moved out of Philly and came out here to Indiana to get closer to family. um and that's where it's been for the last 2 years for us. Is just out here just building a family, trying to build a legacy and our kids in the next generation.
That's awesome.
That's
So
cool.
have you given thought to when kids get, because I know right now they're under 3. So right now, man, full focus, they're all at home. But when they start going to school, like they hit 5, 6, kindergarten, Have
Mhm.
you guys talked about, like, are you thinking you might go back into ministry? Where's your heartbeat? Because I mean, I know you said it's a career, and so I kind of hear some of that job language, but I mean, to run
Yeah.
for 8 years in ministry and to end it well speaks to me.
Mhm.
Like, you didn't end on a moral failure, you didn't end on a financial failure, to my knowledge, right? It just
Yeah.
sounds like
Yeah.
you're like, God has called me to the ministry of the home for this season. Like, I don't feel, I feel like there's definitely a calling there. So like, you're wearing a Jesus hoodie, bro, and that's awesome. Like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna celebrate that. So it's obviously who you're about, aside from sneakers. It's Jesus and Jordans. There, I just
Yeah.
labeled you a new Instagram account right
Jesus and
there.
I
Jordans.
got a new Instagram handle right there. Jesus and Jordans. I might
You're
have to
welcome.
start that hashtag. We
There
might
you
have to start
go.
that up.
Someone's
We're
gonna
gonna
do like
add
a
that onto them.
Yeah, someone's gonna do like a mock-up painting of Jesus and be wearing some J's. But
That's got to exist. Jesus and Jordans has to exist out there.
it
Someone
has
had to have
to.
thought of
It
that already.
has to. But I feel like there's probably a calling in that. So like, have you guys talked at all about maybe a return to ministry for you somewhere down the line, or and maybe that's too far out and I'm misspeaking. That's where my head went, like,
Yeah, yeah.
because
No, that's a
otherwise
good
then you're a
question.
stay-at-home dad with no dadding until they come home from school.
Sure. Dude, there's so many alternative futures to that question.
Yeah.
And it's something that we actually talk about a lot. Because I miss work. I miss work a lot. Like I enjoy working. Um, but I'll be honest, and there wasn't a moral failure or financial failure or anything like that. But I did during probably at least the last half of that 8 year period, I struggled pretty heavily with mental health issues,
Okay.
depression, anxiety, and through finally being persuaded to go to counseling, a lot of it was linked to the pressures of full time ministry.
Sure.
Um, and so, it wasn't until the start of this year I left full time ministry in September 2020. It wasn't until early this year, January 2022, um, that I felt like I was in a spiritual, mental, emotional state where I could go back into ministry. Like it took over a year for me to get to
Yeah.
a point where I was like, I feel like I'm healthy enough that I could do this again.
Okay.
Um, and it wasn't about the competency for me; it was about the character and about the health.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's Carey Nieuwhof says, like your character. He compares the character and the competency all the time, and in reflecting over the last 2 years, I feel like not that I was a bad dude, but I was prideful. I was arrogant. I had a lot of other things going on, and I feel like my competency always outweighed my character. And I feel like I might finally be getting to a point where that's starting to balance out a little bit, if
Okay.
that makes sense. And so I say that to say, like, I feel like I'm in a mental space where I could go back to that, but I think I'm so scared to at the same time
Mm-hmm.
because it almost killed me, honestly.
Sure.
Like I stood at the edge of a parking garage ready to jump, you know?
Oh man.
Um, and, it's like, and I had a buddy that went through much of the same. We were tracking along and it's like, and he was in the hospital, man. And um, that scares me. It scares me a lot. And it's like, obviously, like I trust in God. I'm all about Jesus. Like, he is the most important thing in my life. But the calling may have shifted at this
Okay.
point. And so it's like I'm not ruling that out, but I'm also very, very open to whatever else it is that God has
Yeah.
for me. Um, and so I think, there's a lot of things that I could do, but what am I created to do?
Okay.
That would be fulfilling my purpose. Um, I think for those 8 years, that was it. But I don't know what's next after this season. Like I really don't. That's a really long-winded answer to the question that you
Dude,
asked.
that's awesome. Thanks for
But
being
it's a complicated thing for us that as me and my wife talk about it, man, it's like
yeah.
something we talk about at least weekly of, what the future looks like for our family. And we really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that thanks for your
Yeah.
honesty and your vulnerability. That's awesome. And I mean, you're not alone. Whether it's inside of ministry, outside of ministry, dude, mental health is a very real thing. and especially inside of ministry, I know a lot of pastors and ministry staff
Yeah.
deal with it and live with it and don't follow that urging to go see a counselor. There's a couple of pastors that I followed heavily in the last couple of years who unfortunately did take their own lives. So like,
Mhm.
I mean, God's grace upon you for finally listening and going and talking to somebody. And thanks for thanks for sharing that.
It's honestly one of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah.
Was going. It gave you a space to be completely vulnerable and open. And it's like day one in there, man. It's like I just kind of laid it all out. I was like, I'm not here to waste time.
Yeah.
I'm not here to waste your time or my time. Like, let's just get into this thing and fix me,
Right. Yeah.
Like I was like, this is, if we're gonna do it, we got to do it this way. But it's really like, I do encourage anyone that's struggling with it, man. Don't be scared of therapy. It's not you can love Jesus and still go to therapy.
Amen.
Like,
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I laugh. It's not funny, but it is, because, I've got a couple things going through my head. One is like, feel like the thought is always, oh yeah, I'm good though. Like that therapy is cool for other people, but
mhm.
I don't need that. Like my relationship with Jesus is strong enough to where
I'll pray about it.
I'm a little bulletproof, Um
Yeah.
but yeah, I think there's still somewhat of a stigma.
Ooh.
Even with kids. You right there, man?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm choked on water.
So yeah, I second what Justin was saying. Like, thank you so much for sharing that. You definitely didn't have to, and but we appreciate that. We like it when people come on and they're ready to get real.
That's right.
Yeah.
We do like that. So
I wasn't planning to. It just kind of went there, but
hey, that might have been the Holy Spirit. Who knows?
it could be.
So tell us then, what are you in this season where, you said you like to work. I heard you earlier mention some, you like to create, which
Mhm.
definitely being in the student / kids world, there's a lot of creating, whether it's curriculum or it's games, object lessons, etc. So as a stay-at-home dad
Yeah.
with two littles, and they're gonna take naps, and when you're not cleaning the house, let's be real, that's a thing. When you're not watching your shows after watching 6 hours of Bluey, I feel you. Though we love Bluey.
It's Mickey Mouse in our house.
Okay.
Mickey Mouse. We can't get him off it, man.
Wow. Is it Clubhouse?
We've
Is Mickey
tried.
Mouse Clubhouse?
The Roadster Racers.
Okay. I tried that with my little girl a
Roadster.
couple months ago, and she wasn't quite into it, but I might try it again.
I'm
It's
out of the
better than
game. What can I
Clubhouse.
say?
For
Okay.
myself, it's better than Clubhouse. But
yeah, I get real tired of Clubhouse. The song is still in my head. I was humming it last night, and Megan was like, that's my wife. She was like, why are you singing that? I'm like, woman, it's always in there. Always.
It's always.
Never leaves.
It's like, man, we used to do vacation Bible schools. Those songs would be stuck in your head for months after.
Father
and
Abraham ain't going
don't go
nowhere.
away.
Man.
It's the big house, the big house.
That's right. There you go. There you go.
Wow, yeah.
So what are you doing then at home? What are you creating? What are you working on aside from collecting shoes? Maybe even designing. Are you designing shoes? Like what are you doing currently in the space of being at home, and you are given I wouldn't say free time, but moments potentially to breathe when they go down for a nap, if they go down for a nap. The 2.5-year-old, I'm not convinced.
Yeah, he stopped napping before 2.
Ugh.
He's taken like just a couple, 3 or 4 naps since Thanksgiving of last year, and it's always been when he's sick. So he doesn't nap, and then the baby takes 2 naps a day that are about 25 minutes each. So we don't get they both sleep like 12 hours at night though. That's
nice.
the trade-off. They don't wake up in the middle of the night. So they're horrible nappers, but they're great night sleepers. And
there you go.
I feel like I'll take that every single time.
Yeah,
but
12
as far
hours.
as
Goodness.
Dude, it's about 7:30 to 7:30.
Good for you.
Every night, like clockwork. So yeah, we take that. We take that trade-off.
Oh, yeah.
That means we get to sleep a little bit. So yeah, as far as creating goes, man, I mean, I used to be into music. I did some hip hop for a little while in college and early 20s. I do feel like I'm too old for that. Not really, but like right now, man, the focus has shifted. And so I got married in 2015, been married about 7.5 years now. And ever since then, man, I just, with pride, I would just like point at my wife. I'm like, that's my wife. That's my wife. Like it's just, and it's, I really genuinely feel like I married my best friend. That like, man, I'm ecstatic to be able to spend every day with her, and I feel like it's not that case for all guys.
Yeah.
It's like I talk to a lot of people and it's like, it's like the locker room banter of guys is like, complaining about their wives. And it's like, man, I've never been able to contribute to that conversation because, man, it's like we got a good thing going. And so, since I got married, I had this passion for marriage where I'm like, dude, marriage is like the best thing God ever created. It's like God knew what he was doing when he set this thing up for us. Right.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I became a dad, it's like I learned another thing about another layer of God, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, I'm sure you guys understand that too. And so, my kids are a very, very close second to my wife, and we still decide every day to put each other first and then the kids come after. But man, it's like marriage and parenting, I look at that and it's like, I've never had relationships that quite teach me as much about God as those relationships do.
Sure.
They're the deepest relationships that you'll ever have. Is a mother father, a parent child relationship or a husband and wife relationship. And so that passion's just kind of grown. That passion for marriage and eventually parenting has grown. And especially as I, continued conversations with, friends and other guys, just learning how many dads are just trying to figure this thing out, and it's like, and I stay home full time and dude, I get to the end of almost every day and I'm like, somehow I managed, little Michael Scott,
Yeah.
like somehow I managed, like
Yeah.
the kids are alive, they're clean, they're fed, they're sleeping, like somehow we got here. And so it just kind of started developing and this thought process kind of like, man, I want to start talking about this one. I want to start sharing my passion. It's like, I'm by no means am I an expert in either marriage or parenting, but I'm an enthusiast, right? So
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Like I could talk about it all day long. And I want to see other guys get as excited as I am about it and enjoy marriage as much as I do and enjoy parenting as much as I do. And so, just through some conversations, decided to start a podcast. And so I love what you guys are doing here. And so, I love, because I don't see a ton of dad podcasts. I know they're out there. I just haven't found a whole lot of them.
Right.
But found this one, so I enjoy listening to you guys. But
Well,
man, I just want to
thanks.
be another voice in the fatherhood space. Because I feel like a lot of the parenting stuff out there is directed and geared towards moms, which is
Mm-hmm.
cool. That's awesome. I'm just not listening to it.
Right.
It's like, and it's not that it's not good stuff and not things that I could learn from. It's just not as relatable for me. And so,
Sure.
I took one of my passions of sneakers, and then, when we found out we were pregnant with the second, we went out and bought a minivan. Um, and so, my buddy's like, "Hey, you're gonna start rocking the dad shoes," and I don't want to throw shade at anybody wearing dad shoes, but like say, "Hey, I'm gonna still wear the Jordans and minivans, the kicks and minivans," and
There you go.
we just kind of were like, "Dude, that'd be a great podcast name." And so we decided, gonna start a podcast called Kicks and Minivans, and just with the whole goal is to help men win in marriage and parenting.
That's awesome.
Um, and I think you can't just focus on the parenting without focusing on the marriage, because I think one of the greatest gifts you could give your kids is a picture of a great, healthy marriage. And so I think you have to talk about both of those things together.
Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
great. And I think those people that have listened to us for a while, they know that those things really do go hand in hand, at least in our conversations. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
we do talk a lot about, being a dad, and that relationship with our kids, but we talk a lot about our wives too. We've had women on the podcast,
Yeah.
who are just for the record, not dads. So,
Some of them are not even moms.
Really? Okay.
yeah, but
Season 1, it was a wild time.
it,
Listen, when I
uh,
started this thing by myself, I pulled anybody and everybody onto this podcast, yo.
yeah,
It
hey,
was great.
you want to come on? Okay, let's do
Let's
this.
go.
There it is. There it is.
But you know what? Like, especially in the early days, and I feel like I can brag on this because that was before my time, is even some of the women who, may not be moms, may not be dads, but they had some great perspectives.
Yeah.
I feel like every person we've had on has been able to show, whether it's in a good way or unfortunately sometimes a negative way, how they've been influenced by their dads.
Mm,
And one of the things, Justin, I really enjoyed when I first started listening to you was that you didn't want to have the typical sitcom, dad is a doofus kind of a
Yeah.
thing, where you really
yes.
wanted it to be like uplifting and encouraging and having good conversation. And so that's really one of the things that kind of drew me in. And I really so when I found out about it, I binged however many episodes that you had on at the
I think
time.
it was like
And
11.
yeah,
Or you were
That's
11.
amazing.
maybe I was 11. And yeah, so I love it, and there's room for more. I remember I've listened to a couple different dad podcasts, and I feel like every one has its own unique little flavor.
Yep.
And this one is we're really just kind of about good, authentic conversation. Again, just being encouraging and uplifting, to two dads. And yeah, man, hey, more the merrier.
That's right.
There's plenty of room.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was gonna jump in and agree with you, Kevin. Like there's not many dad podcasts that are out there or that are highlighted. And so I think especially ones like yours where you're coming in with the intentional goal of like, I'm here to help dads win and not
Mhm.
just to have more sex or the happy wife, happy life, but like it's legitimately to win both in marriage and in
Yep.
parenting. The more we can pump that out into a culture where dad is constantly put down and belittled, um, which is hurting. I mean, it's hurting society. Like people
Yeah,
start
it
running
is.
statistics on like the homelessness of kids. They're running statistics on like prison rates, and one of the common denominators that a lot of them get tracked back to, but sometimes is ignored because society wants to push. Well, you just need to buckle up your shoes and handle it, but a lot of it comes back to fatherlessness, the breakdown of a more traditional family system, which I know saying that is a buzzword in a postmodern culture, but it's showing that there's an impact on our young people and our kids and our students, and the way they hurt and the choices they make is all because either the lack of a dad or poor fathers who, let's be honest, their dad probably wasn't around, or nobody showed them how to be a better father than their father, or nobody painted a healthy picture for them. And so yeah, it's carried. You've got generational curses that now we need to start speaking some generational blessings over. So dude, man, go rocket, kick some minivans, Jesus and Jordans, like bro, the more positive fatherhood you can pump out there, and it's okay to punch a dad in the teeth
Yeah.
every once in a while, like, dude, you're being a crappy dad. Like, come on, you can do
Yeah.
better. So like we just want to champion you, bro. We're here for you. Dad Report
I
is for you,
appreciate
man.
that, man. I
Yeah.
Oh,
appreciate
and
you guys having me on. I'm like, I don't feel like I've contributed enough to like be invited on to talk about it. But
We have
I think
everybody.
like, and that's part of why I went into children's ministry too, is, seeing kids that I grew up with, friends that I grew up with that just didn't have a dad in their house. And for a guy to go into children's ministry, I was like one of the only guys in my major in college. I was one of
Yeah.
the only children's pastors that I knew, but I wanted to go in there because having a positive male role model in your life is just one of the most important. Like, it just is. Like, boys and girls need positive male role models in their life. And whether you had a great dad in your home, like I had a great dad, and there's a ton of stuff that I learned from him that I've implemented into my life and that I want to emulate that. And there's also things from him that I learned that I'm like, I don't want to do that, you
Yeah.
know? And whatever your situation with your dad was, if you had a horrible dad or no dad, hey, you have the power to say, hey, that stops here in my family line. That stops here. And from here forward, we're going to leave a legacy of great fathers in our
Yes.
name. In
Amen.
our
Yep.
family tree, we're going to have great fathers all over every single branch of it. And each guy has the ability to make that decision to say, I'm not going to be like the guys that came before me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. That's such a big deal. Whew, I got goosebumps with him saying that. Holy crap.
Yeah, no, yeah, Justin, I see the wheels turning for you, and it's happening for me. I mean, I know we've both had those thoughts of yeah, there's some stuff that we just don't that just doesn't need to continue. It needs to stop here, like you're
Yeah.
saying. So yeah, that's huge. Quick update. Jesus and Jordans appears to be available.
Oh.
I did so I
I'm
did a
snagging it. I
I
got to
did a
snag it before Justin does.
That's right.
I did a podcast search and I don't see anything. I
Oh.
did a Google search and the only thing I can see is Dope Christian Tees has a Jesus
Okay.
and Jordans shirt. So aside from that, I think
Well,
and let's see, you've got until Monday to lock it down. So lock it down.
I'll let him have it, dude. Kicks and Minivans is your podcast. Your hashtag is Jesus and Jordans.
I
If
might
you
have to
help
start a
me,
spin-off podcast if the
there
first
you
one goes
go.
well.
If you help me cop a pair of J's for cheap, I'm your boy. You can have it. We're good.
I was gonna say you're the only one of the three of us that has the pair. So
That's true.
They're hard to get now, man. The game's getting a little annoying.
It's
It's taking a little
escalated.
bit of the joy out of it, but
That's okay. It means the housing market's gotten a touch easier for us down here. I'm kidding. It sucks.
yeah.
hey, so you talked earlier a little bit about your dad. And
Mhm.
it sounds like, with you and your wife, you're really trying to make the best decisions that, raise your kids in the best way possible. You're a stay-at-home dad. I know there's super highs to that. There's also some things that are difficult about that, but like what can you tell us about your dad and about how he's influenced you both as a man, as a husband, as a dad?
Mhm.
Just how has that looked for you?
I think, anytime I'm asked about that question, there's a specific story that comes to mind. And I was a teenager. So maybe 15, 16, something like that. And so one night I'm down in my room, I'm trying to fall asleep. And it was pretty late. But I was just having trouble sleeping, and I hear my bedroom door open up, and my dad came in. And he's tiptoeing over, and I didn't know what he wanted. So I kind of, kept my eyes closed, pretended like I was sleeping. Um, and he came over and he knelt by my bed
Hmm.
and put his hand on my shoulder and he started praying for me. Um, and I will never forget that moment. That's kind of forever. When someone asks me the impacts he had on me, that's always what comes to mind. Is a man that prayed for his kids.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that happened more than once, or him coming into my room. I don't know if that happened more than once, if that was a regular thing, or um, if it was just one time. Um, but I know without a doubt that he prayed for me more than just one time.
Yeah.
I know that was a constant thing for him. Um, and so that's how, if my dad never taught me anything else, he taught me to pray. Um, and I don't know if there's a better lesson he could have passed down to me, honestly. Um, 'Cause I think there's a lot of situations in my life where it's like, man, if God didn't come through, I'd be screwed, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of situations that I've had in life both in full-time ministry and just in life in general, where it's like, man, I needed God to come through, and it was either my prayers or sometimes more likely the prayers of somebody else that I don't even know who was praying for me. But man, it's like and there's times where I sneak into my kids' rooms, and he's 2, so it's a little easier to sneak in there actually. But there's times where I go in and I pray for my kids, just the same way that he did for me.
That's
Oh
awesome.
man, what a story. I love that. That's great.
It reminds me of that Brandon Lake song, Talking to Jesus, where he literally goes through the account of like his grandma praying for him, and then like I think some other family members, and just it was like, Grandma, what are you doing? She's like, I'm teaching you how to talk to Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's what reminds me of. I don't sneak into my kid's room. I just pray over her before I put her down, like while we're rocking. More so because if I sneak it back in there, I'm terrified she'll wake up and then we're never going back down. So that 18-month mark is a weird time
it's
frame.
brutal, man. It is rough. It is rough.
So, but that's awesome.
And, I'm in that place where like, so mine are a little bit older, so I'm trying to give them, a little bit of privacy, whatever. But there's times where something's going down. It's like, I don't care. The door's coming down. we're doing it. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's great. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you told that story, because, I mean, what a legacy, if nothing else, like you were saying, that's a great legacy to be passing down. So thank you for sharing that.
So
absolutely.
What flowing out of that, what are the things that as you've talked, I've heard legacy mentioned a few times from you tonight, and I can tell it's part of your heartbeat. So with that, are they both boys, or you got one girl, one boy? I don't remember what the
we got
is.
2 boys. Two
oh,
boys.
Man.
2 boys.
You are. I love having a girl. I was oldest of 3 boys, so I love having a girl. It's change of pace.
I had 3 little sisters, so I love having.
Okay, there you go.
I'm like, we just spent the weekend at my sister's house, and she has a little girl the same age as my first, and so now I'm like, I want a daddy's little girl. I'm feeling it, man.
But do you play the game? Do you run the risk? My dad tried 3 times for a girl, and well, he struck out every time.
Hey, if we had a third boy, I might, I'm not going to be upset about that.
Yeah.
If we had a third and it's a girl, we're not going again.
There you go.
So that's
Wise
the rap right there.
Wise call.
Right there.
Yeah. And every dad is nodding his head right now.
Yeah, that's true.
I know I drive a minivan, but I got a limit. All right.
Right. It seats 7, but we're done at 4. Yeah.
We need room for friends. Room for friends.
That's right. That's right. We bought a 4Runner as my wife. I should say it's my wife's 4Runner. I love her. It's so fun. People are like, you have a 4Runner? No. She has a 4Runner. I got a Rolla. I get the gas mileage.
Gotcha.
That's her mom vehicle, and we are still refusing to ever invest in a minivan, but we'll see. The world is full of surprises.
I can bring you around. I can bring you around to it.
There you go.
You got to tap into the Kicks and Minivans podcast.
There you go. We'll
get you hooked. We'll get you hooked.
Sorry, Chad, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I thought about maybe coming back to the podcast, and so you kind of given us the the vision for it, where that came out of, and you want to take a minute and just kind of let us know when you're gonna be rolling this out and where people can find you. So looking at the calendar, oh, Justin, you know what I just realized?
No.
We're going to be coming out on Halloween.
Huh. Happy Halloween.
Now the pressure's on. Now
or happy Reformation Day, or happy All Saints Eve, whichever, you prefer to practice.
Okay.
Or celebrate.
On October 31st. We don't want to, we don't want to.
We just confused a whole mess of listeners who now have had to check their calendar because they're listening to this on the 31st. And they're like, wait, what?
Hey, Justin. Happy Halloween.
Thanks. Happy Halloween.
Happy Reformation Day. Happy.
That's right.
Whatever. October 31st.
All Saints Day is what all the other Christians jump on when they don't want to celebrate Halloween. I've got my own thoughts and opinions about that. But anywho, you
So
had a question for Kevin.
back to where we are. And that's how we do it sometimes.
Welcome to the Dad Report.
So when this comes out, I don't believe your first episode will be out. So just let us know where people can find you and when you're gonna be publishing your first episode and all that good stuff.
Sure. Yeah, so the preview episode's out. That one just came out last week.
Okay.
And so it's on YouTube and Spotify right now. Apple's taking its time. I don't know if you guys had that issue when you first got up. Apple's taking its time to approve.
It takes the RSS a little bit to finally go through. And did you set up? We can talk offline. Let's hang around after we stop the show.
So
we'll chat offline.
I would love to get any and all wisdom I can get.
Yeah.
So yeah, the preview episode's up right now on YouTube and Spotify. It'll be up on Apple eventually. And you could just search at Kicks and Minivans for that. And then the first 2 episodes are dropping on Monday, November 7th. So just 1 week from the release of this episode.
Awesome.
Those will be coming out. And so the first is just a solo bit by myself. And then the second one, we bring on our first interview guest. And so super, super stoked for that. And then if you go to Instagram, if you're on Instagram at Kicks and Minivans, we're actually running a giveaway for $100 Nike gift card. Not quite enough to buy you a pair of Jordans,
but close.
Not quite enough. Maybe enough a pair of Jordan 1 lows.
Enough to ask for forgiveness.
Take this thing off a little bit.
What's the giveaway
enough where you
here?
can tell your wife, you're like, hey, so yeah, you could go there. We're going to give away $100 Nike gift card. So at Kicks and Minivans, you'll see the post there at the top of the page, and we'll do the drawing for that, the raffle for that on our launch day, November 7th.
All right.
So that's a good way. And then other than podcast stuff, like I just post pictures of my sneakers. So, I have fun doing that. And some pictures of the minivan that gets in there, but there's only so many ways you can take a shot of one singular minivan.
That's fair. Awesome. So November 7th, everybody should be tuning in on all available platforms for the release of Kicks and Minivans episodes 1 and 2, is what you're telling us.
Yep. And then we'll release a new episode every other Monday
for
a stretch. And then hopefully kick that up. If my kids start napping, maybe we'll kick that up to every single week. But eventually we'd love to get there, but we're just kind of starting it slow right now. Doing what I feel like I can manage for now.
That's wise. Well, we're about to wrap it up. We'll chat a little bit offline about how we can hopefully assist you in some of those podcasting tools.
That.
Before we do that, though, I did have a question. Well, we got 2 things because I could see Chad, the dad joke.
Oh man,
angst is in there.
What? Me?
You so much angst. And then the second thing was you had mentioned something about legacy, and I'm sure you'll talk more about legacy in your podcast. But what's one legacy item that if you could, whether it comes from your dad or it's something that you're like, my kids, like this is the legacy that I want them from you, like as a father, like what's the one piece of legacy you'd like to leave with your kiddos?
That's a deep question. I've never been asked.
Ooh.
I mean, because there's so much, and I think I think it's Dave Ramsey said, an inheritance is what you leave to your kids. A legacy is what you leave in your kids. And so if I could leave anything in my kids, I think it'd be faithfulness. It's like, obviously, like as a Christian man, I desire for my kids to grow up and have a relationship with God. But I think going deeper than that, I want them to be faithful to what God's called them to do. And I'm imperfectly trying to live that out. As you ask me, like, hey, are you going to go back to full-time ministry? I'm like, I don't know. Like, if God tells me to do it, I'll do it, but I'm trying to figure out on a day-to-day thing. Like, we know what God's called us to in this season, and we're trying to faithfully walk that out. And so I think, like, even though it might be scary, there's no safer place in the world than being at the center of God's will. And so if I could leave anything to my kids, it's to faithfully follow him. Because I think he's created them for something specific and unique. I think he's created every single person for something specific and unique. So it's like, obviously I believe that about my own kids. And so, man, I think, like, I'm not afraid of hard work. I'm afraid of doing work that doesn't line up with what I'm created to do, and wasting
Yeah.
time like that. And so it's like, hey, they're going to contribute something to this world. Man, be faithful to God, because he's already got it written. He's already got it planned out for you. But be faithful and walk after him, because what he could have for you is so much more than you could create for yourself. It really, really is. And even just what I'm doing right now, it's like sometimes you can look at it on the day to day and feel like I'm not doing a whole lot. But man, it's like I, as a man, get to stay home and raise my 2 boys.
Yeah.
Like, what greater gift in the world is there than that, man? And that's not a plan that I had for my life. It's really not. But it's where God wants me right now.
Yeah.
And so if I could leave anything in my kids, it's to be faithful to what God's calling them to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a worthy task there for sure.
All right. It's time to give Chad one of your best dad jokes, Kevin.
Can I hear one first?
Yes,
Ooh.
yes, I've got one.
Here we
jumped right.
Chad always comes prepared. Always. I might have a pun or two ready on a good day.
So I heard this one. I heard this one today, actually. So,
Was it from Jude?
no, actually, it
Oh,
was
okay.
from somebody I work with. So,
Okay.
so speaking of legacy, when a buffalo goes off to college, what does his parents say?
Bye, son.
Bye, son.
There it is. Bye, son.
That was-
I thought you were gonna get it, Justin. I saw you. You had this thinking, the thinking stare.
You
You're
know
like,
me. I like to figure them out. I love the
yeah.
puns. Those are the good ones.
So
I wish I could remember the one we were at. Me and my best friend were at Halloween Horror Nights this past weekend in Orlando. It's been a tradition for the last 4 years since my bachelor party, which it was just him and I going down there for a trip. And I made some pun in line where he like literally wanted to like disown me as a friend. Like he was like, that was so bad. And I wish I could remember it now. I can't. It was so funny. Anyway, all right, Kevin, hopefully that was enough buffer time. Lay it on us.
All right. So Chad gave me about 8 minutes warning to
That's
come with a
classic.
dad joke.
That's
true.
pretty
I
typical.
meant to send it
actually.
this morning, and it just didn't happen. So my bad.
Also valid.
That's fine. So my father he's the self-proclaimed king of dad jokes.
Okay.
To which I just groan in agony. To which he says I win. And so I called him the minute Chad told me I needed a dad joke. And he was with his best friend, who was equally delighted to receive this call from me. So I have to give credit where credit's due.
Absolutely.
Because I can't.
That is
I can't
such a
say
dad thing too.
That
We're
is.
like, oh, we gotta take this call.
I mean, they were completely ecstatic about this. All right. So can I give you 2?
Of course.
Absolutely.
All right. There once was a king who was only 12 inches tall. And they say he was a terrible king, but he made a great ruler.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. That's It's
See, it does
cringy.
something to my spirit. It does something to my spirit.
You'll get there. Maybe it's because you don't have that girl yet. I'm telling you, with the girl comes
It's
the
the girl
cringy
dad
jokes.
thing.
Because then when they start dating, like I can already see myself in 15 years cringing out all her boyfriends. That way she stays longer. It's like a safety thing.
So here's the other one. I gave a bald man a comb for a birthday gift. He said he would never part with it.
Yes.
I just have every mental image of every poor bald guy that still has a little bit of hair and he parts it and it's like the worst thing ever. Oh my gosh. Woo.
So Justin,
All
I
right.
think what really made me laugh at that one was your reaction, because you're over here losing,
was
like
what
you can barely
made me
breathe.
It was so good. I'll never part with it.
I'm gonna
Oh,
have to
man.
send this to my father, because he's gonna be he's gonna be delighted in that.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
See, you
All
were
right.
making excuses, and those two were solid.
Those were
They
great
weren't
dad
mine.
jokes.
They
That's
were not
okay.
mine.
Hey,
They were not mine.
they are
So
now. Now you've come in the
they
arsenal. You're aware of them.
apparently I put them. I have broadcasted them to the world before he has.
There you
So
go. See,
that's it.
that's awesome. Well, Kevin, dude, thanks for being on the show. We're gonna go ahead and stop the recording here, but I just want to say again, like, thanks for being on here. Thanks for being honest. Thanks for
Yeah.
laughing with us. Thanks for being patient. And dude, thanks for sharing your vision for dads, man. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me, man. I so appreciate it. I feel honored that you guys would ask me to come on. Feel like I haven't really done much. But
No
dude,
worries.
just being able to come on and talk about dad stuff is always a blast for me.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Thanks,
All
man.
right. And with that, this dad report is closed.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can support us by sharing the show with your friends and family. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
Want more of the Dad Report? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and even join the community over on Discord. Don't forget to send us your dad jokes for a chance to be featured on the show.
Remember the words of Billy Graham about fatherhood. A good father is one of the most unsung, unpraised, unnoticed, and yet one of the most valuable assets in our society.
So if you are a dad, we're cheering you on. If you have a dad, be kind to him. And if you know a dad, tell him about our podcast.